Hello, Mr. Lim. I'm Dr. Nakayama, and this is Dr. Zeller.
Hi, we're both residents. Dr. Kameāloha will be taking care of you.
Aloha, Mr. Lim.
Is this some kind of practical joke?
She may be 16, but she is a doctor.
You know who she's like?
Here we go.
Remember Doogie Kameāloha? That show from the 90s? She's like a real-life Doogie Kameāloha. That's why we call her Doogie.
Oh, I never made the connection.
Girl, why did you think we called her Doogie?
Hey everyone, it's Anthony Allen Ramos. Okay, y'all remember Doogie Howser? Well, the upcoming Disney Plus series, Doogie Kameāloha, MD, follows a similar narrative, but this time it's a young girl who becomes a doctor and then has to balance high school. One of our favorites, Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman, plays one of her doctor colleagues named Charles. And I am so excited to be talking to Jeffrey right now. How are you?
Anthony, I'm so great. I've been looking forward to this all day. Out of all the conversations I've been having, sitting down with you is always such a joy.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I've gotten a sneak peek at it. It's super cute. But before we get into that, I'm remembering what you posted on social media. You said that you got to play a judge on TV. Now you get to play a doctor on TV, and your mom is proud. But wait, we got to go back for a second to you playing a judge, because all of us, obviously I'm talking about Drag Race. I don't think your time there is done. Rue likes you way too much. That chemistry is real. So do you think I know you're really busy with, filming this show, but you think there's any shot of a Jeffrey Rue reunion?
There's not just a shot of it. I mean, it's an inevitability. I'm still very much a part of the Drag Race family. I always will be. I feel so blessed to have been so wholeheartedly embraced by the World of Wonder family and by Rue and Michelle and Ross and Carson. The show means so much to me, and the artistry of drag means so much to me. I have nothing but the most tremendous respect and admiration for drag artists. I love the show. I mean, I'm still just a super fan at the end of the day. So yes, although I had to make a decision that wasn't necessarily the easiest decision in the world, to walk away from Canada's Drag Race to do this new Disney Plus series, it was the right thing to do for me at the end of the day. It's what my intuition told me to do. Yeah, knowing that I will always have a place in the home of Drag Race, it wasn't that bittersweet, but listening to my intuition and knowing that had I said no to this opportunity to play an openly queer character on a Disney show, if I had said no to it, that is something that I would have regretted.
I completely understand and agree. And, on that, it's such a big deal. I mean, Disney Plus is really making very progressive. And, this is a family series, which is great. And I think, like you said, for you getting to play Charles, who's an openly queer doctor, what does that mean for you? I mean, did you ever think when you were younger that you would be getting to play a gay character on Disney?
That's such an interesting question to me, because I don't want to rule out the possibility of my childhood imagination. I loved all things Disney when I was a kid. I loved film and television when I was a kid. I was drawn more to like the more bizarre, kind of like fantastical projects like Labyrinth, or like kind of like cult genre things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So in that respect, I always saw myself there being a door that could open, that I could walk through as an openly queer person. As a queer man, the vision of me working on a Disney show was never really something that came to mind. But that said, I know that my original intention as to why I became an actor in the first place was, to fulfill the intentions of that little 10-year-old Jeffrey, who would turn on the television and never have the privilege or the blessing of seeing positive reflections of myself being bounced back at me. I didn't really see any openly queer characters, any positive representations of Blackness in the way that we so often see it today. So I knew that in order for me to become that was the path to helping to create a path for others to follow in my footsteps, for just to give the gift to children to turn on the television, and when they see me, to see themselves. It was never about them seeing me as Jeffrey and having it be all about me. It was about showing up and being myself, so that other kids could be given the permission to be themselves as well.
And that's really what it's all about. That's what we're here to celebrate and make sure happens at GLAAD. You know, I know there is such an opportunity for kids and families to see Charles and the other characters and just feel, you know, like seen and represented. It's such a diverse cast, which I love. Let's talk about Charles though, because like I said, it centers around this young girl who's 16 years old. She's a genius prodigy, becomes a doctor, just like Doogie Howser did back in the day. And you play Charles, one of her fellow doctors, but Charles is fun and I think has a lot of personality, but what else can you tell us about what we're gonna see with Charles this season?
So yeah, so as you mentioned, I played Dr. Charles Zeller. So he is a first-year resident at a hospital in Hawaii, in Oahu, where we filmed. I play one of Doogie's besties on the show and in the hospital. It's very much a reimagining of the original series Doogie Howser, but the same structure. Doogie had two, like, you know, hospital resident best friends in the show, and the version with Neil Patrick Harris, and the same is true with our show as well. So Charles very much serves as the eyes into the island for the mainlanders. Everything is brand new to him. He is fun. He's like joyous and optimistic and quirky. He has an opinion about absolutely everything and isn't afraid to share it. He is very much willing to learn about local traditions and customs of the Hawaiian natives. And as he does so, and everything is explained to him, the audience learns by proxy. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's very much his place. And then as the course of the season progresses, you discover why and how he ended up in Hawaii, a little bit of his backstory when it comes to his love life, his perspective and opinions on love and men and all of the above. Myself and Mapuana Makia, who plays the other doctor, Noelani on the show, kind of serve as a sounding board to Doogie. She's a teen genius, so obviously she's well-versed and above and beyond where we are when it comes to like medical intellect, but when it comes to real life experience, real world experience, romance, love, heartbreak, she hasn't been through it. It's all new to her, so we can offer her our guidance and expertise in that capacity. So I'm already rooting for Charles. I love that we're going to know the backstory. I know, because there is a little mystery, like you said. He's the transplant. Everyone else is from there, but I guess we'll find out why and how that happened. Have you? Just so much fun. He's so much fun. I enjoyed playing him so much. He's just so he's different than anybody I've ever played before. But really, I feel like I just tapped into my own inner child to play him, the optimism and the wide-eyed curiosity and the kind of like inability to hold back his opinion in that respect. There's something really endearing about him that it was such a pleasure, such a blessing going to work every day and being in such a positive, uplifting atmosphere and getting to do something that I know would be a part of something that's going to bring so much joy to millions of people all across the world.
No, it's going to definitely bring a lot of joy. I was thinking about, like, I always think about the actors on like Grey's Anatomy that suddenly have to do a crash course in like medical lingo and all that. Did you have to learn any of that stuff? Because it's not easy.
No, we learned it on the fly, which was like very surprising to me. But I think because of COVID protocols, they just did as much as they possibly could to like keep us separate and only have us together and working when it was absolutely necessary. And that was basically just when we were on set, when the camera was rolling. We did have a doctor on set, a medical professional named Dr. Mark, who was there to help us with certain pronunciation of medical terms and, you know, putting on just the technicalities, putting on gloves, the way that you would hold a scalpel, things like that. But no, surprisingly enough, we weren't really like ultra trained in anything medicinal prior to filming. The show is very much a coming of age story and like a dramedy. It's as much as it's about Doogie and the fact that she's a child genius working as a doctor in the hospital. The show is it's about so much more than that. It's about her personal relationships, her dynamic with her family, falling in love, getting her heart broken, navigating friendships, all of those things, while also being a teenage genius. So I think the show does a really wonderful balance of coming from that perspective while still, bringing in the medical elements to it.
I think that sounds great for kids and families to see. I was just thinking, do we know if Neil Patrick Harris has what does he think about all this? Do we have any idea? I feel like, if I were him, I'd want to have like at least a cameo at the end of the season or something, but let's see what happens, right? Yeah, and so September 8th, right, is when it will be available to stream on Disney Plus, everyone. So mark your calendars. But Jeffrey, before we go, you always post such great content, and a lot of it's very entertaining, a lot of it's very inspirational. And I want to go back to something that you posted in October, back when the pandemic was, raging on, even though we're still in it. But I really connected with it, and I think it's an important conversation. You posted some photos of your days modeling back in the day. You talked about, thinking you were fat then, you struggled, and you talked openly about, struggling with disordered eating and just body image dysmorphia, all of that. For me, I think it's something that I totally connected with. And I think a lot of people, especially in the queer community, have gone through that and can, also identify with that. So, tell me about why it was important for you to post and how you were kind of able to just get to this place of acceptance for yourself now.
If I remember the post you're talking about, I think it was me posting some Polaroids of me in my underwear on the rooftop of my agency in New York.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was it. I think I was going through old photos and I stumbled across. It's a bi-monthly ritual in the fashion industry. When you're working as a model, you show up to your agency twice a month, once every couple of weeks, whatever it is. They strip you down to your underwear and they take photographs of your body and then pump those photographs to different clients all across the planet and essentially sell you. Like, do you want this? Do you want this? Sending me to Asia, sending me to South Africa, sending me to Montreal, sending me to Miami, wherever it may be. You're such a product. And I looked at these photographs that I stumbled across in an old phone or something, and I was just so struck. I think I was 25 in those photos. I've been modeling for almost 10 years at that point, and I saw my body, and I thought I looked great. I thought I looked beautiful, but in the moment, there's no way that I could have seen that. I was so starved of self-love as well as nutrients and food and fuel to keep me going. I put all of my value and worth in my physical appearance at that time because that is what paid my bills. That is what I was taught to value. It was just really striking to me that when I looked back on those images, and I was just so, it was just this like bright, joyous, optimistic, beautiful young soul who was living in this place of like self-deprecation and never satisfied with my physical appearance. And because I was never satisfied with my physical appearance, I started my journey of disordered eating at a very young age, from the time I started modeling when I was like 15 years old. And when I deprived myself of nourishment and nutrients from my body, I was in effect depriving myself of nourishment and nutrients from my soul. My mental health was completely imbalanced at that time because I couldn't think clearly. My view of the world was so skewed because what I was placing value and importance in really wasn't valuable or important at all. So I think it was really just through therapy and through, healing my disordered eating over the course of many years. That post was just more so about me talking to my younger self and talking to hopefully younger people out there who can hear my story and relate to it in some capacity, and maybe recognize that the spiral of insanity that they're currently in, comparing themselves to social media influencers and celebrities and models and whoever it may be, the prettiest girl in your high school, whoever it may be. Not only is it not worth it, you're never going to find your value or your inherent worth in comparing yourself to others. And so often when we think that we're not good enough, it's just, it's simply not true. And if we are constantly seeking validation for, our external beauty or external attributes, you're on a path that is like bound for failure, because beauty and youth only lasts for so long. But in saying that, I was actually just having a conversation with one of my old agents from Wilhelmina Models in New York just the other day. And we were talking about how coming out of the pandemic, how so many of us are aware that the way the world was and had been operating for so long, not only the entertainment industry, but the world at large, when it comes to misogyny, patriarchy, racism, homophobia, body dysmorphia, all of those things. I don't think many of us are willing to go back to the way that things were. So, you know, we were talking about like what changes could be made within the modeling industry. And it was just something that was so obvious to me now, but never occurred to me then, that when we're constantly being told that our bodies are too big for the clothes, nobody ever stops to think like maybe the clothes are too small for the bodies, and you need to start like reevaluating what sample size is and why it even exists, why it's a necessity. Why are we constantly trying to jam square pegs into round holes and in effect make people feel less than? Because it's inevitable. So few of us are like genetic freaks that actually fit into a size 0 just naturally without having to starve ourselves or exhaust ourselves through endless exercise. So starting to reevaluate the industry from that perspective, I think is hugely important, is really going to save a lot of young people's mental health, and hopefully help the individuals like myself who have been through it and may have come out with a bit of trauma, but to have some perspective and to see that we're not alone. And once we open up a dialogue and actually cultivate a vocabulary around it and have the ability to have these uncomfortable discussions about uncomfortable truths, change can be made for the better.
Oh, so great. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's so important. And I think you're so right. I don't think in so many things, I don't think we're going back to the way that things were done before. I mean, that's really one positive thing that has come out of all of this. You know, I mean, and I think it's, you know, talking about the youth that are going to be watching your show and families, I think hearing that story is just as equally as important, because, you know, it's social media. It can make kids crazy, and just they, you know, can get so wrapped up in it. So thank you again for sharing all of that, and also for posting that. But, you know, I'm so excited about your Disney Plus series. Do you have any sort of favorite scene or moment that you got to do? I mean, I don't want to spoil too much because, you know, no one else has seen it yet, but is there any specific thing that you know, loved shooting or loved learning or doing?
Well, we were filming in Hawaii, so I was there for like 4.5 months throughout COVID. So I mean, to be in Honolulu for 4.5 months was just such a dream come true. So many of my favorite experiences and best memories came from offset as well as onset, but there's this so onset, I would say that anytime, it's a huge cast, it's like 10 of us in the cast. So anytime that we had the opportunity for all of us to be in the same room at the same time filming a scene, it was a rare occasion, but whenever that did occur, we were all just so incredibly excited to be with each other, because it's just such a brilliant cast of individuals. Some faces you will be familiar with, and some are brand new to people, which is so exciting to introduce this new talent to the world. Offset, and I guess this does bleed into the onset experience as well, is that such respect and reverence was paid to Hawaiian culture. There is such, I mean, there's truly, ancestry, family, the history of the land, and spirituality is something that is held in such high regard in Hawaii that doesn't exist here on the mainland. I mean, it may technically be a part of the United States of America, but it is a world unto itself. So to have the experience of really spending time with locals, and one memory that really stands out to me is when myself and Mapuana Makia, who plays Noelani on the show, went to this historic site in Waikiki, of all places, called the Kameāloha stones. And there are these 4 massive boulders. Have you been there?
I know exactly what they are, because there was a documentary short actually that was about them, and it's so well done. Yeah.
It's so brilliant. So mahu is the Polynesian or Hawaiian word for trans. And trans people are held in such high regard, in such high esteem, with such respect in Polynesian culture. It's actually unbelievable that we here on the mainland have had such a different experience with the trans experience. But I guess that can all be chalked up to like patriarchy, colonization, oppression, all of those things. But there's these 4 massive stones that have been relocated and placed on the beach in Waikiki. They're called the Kameāloha stones, and the lore is that 700 years ago, 4 trans healers came from Tahiti to the island of Oahu and were the medicine women. They were the healers. They were doing the actual physical healing of like traditional ailments, but also spiritual healing. And it's just these women were deemed as magical and as spiritual deities and as these priceless figures within their tribal communities. And so the lore goes that before they left the island, each one of them infused all of their essence and their energy and their powers into these 4 stones. And they left them there on the island for the locals to still reap the benefits of the Mahu medicine women.
Yeah. I love that you got to see that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because there's a really great documentary short that explains it. And I had never heard of it, but I mean, that's fantastic.
Was it the animated short that you saw?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So we watched it and then like went and sought it out, and it turned out that the stones were like, they're right in the middle of Waikiki Beach, and like if you didn't know they were there, you wouldn't really pay attention to it because there's so much going on in that area. But as soon as I realized that's where they were, I mean, I probably went back 10 times to go visit that spot and just go stand there and really just like pay appreciation to.
Well, Jeffrey, it is so good to see you. And like I said, Doogie Kameāloha, MD is so fun. It is going to start streaming on Disney Plus on September 8th. So we can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what happens for Dr. Charles. But and I'm sure we'll see you pop up on Drag Race soon enough.
Soon enough.